Hey, buddy, hit that subscribe. Just a sec for you, but it means the world to me. Thanksgiving was supposed to be chill. Just another long table, fake smiles, and food nobody actually eats hot. But the second my grandfather slammed his hand down, the whole vibe died instantly. Not awkward silence. Not polite quiet. The kind of silence that makes your ears ring. "Lena," he said. My name cut through the room like a blade. "You want to explain this? Right now." My fork froze halfway in my mouth. I didn't even know what this was. 1 second everyone was laughing, passing gravy, pretending we were some picture-perfect family. The next, every single pair of eyes was locked on me, like I just committed a crime. I don't know what you're talking about," I said. My voice came out weak, barely above a breath. No one jumped in. No one laughed it off. No one said, "Dad, you're tripping." That's when I knew something was seriously wrong. My mom gripped her wine glass like it was the only thing keeping her steady. My dad wouldn't look up from the table. My aunt's jaw tightened so hard I could see it twitch. They weren't confused. They weren't surprised. They were scared. Before I could say anything else, the front door opened. A man in a tailored dark suit stepped inside like he owned the place. Calm, clean, briefcase in hand. "I'm the family attorney," he said, "and this can't wait." That's when it hit me. Whatever this was, it wasn't small, and it definitely wasn't about turkey. My grandfather leaned back, studying me like he always did. Not angry. Worse. Disappointed. 3 years ago, he said slowly, "I bought a property. I put it in your name." My chest tightened. "That's impossible," I said. 3 years ago I was broke. Like, couldn't even fix my car broke. "I know," he replied. That single sentence sent chills straight down my spine. I turned to my parents. "Mom? Dad? Please tell me what he's talking about." My mom smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Sweetheart, this really isn't the time. You're already overwhelmed." There it was. That word again. The same one she used when my credit applications got rejected. The same one she used when job offers mysteriously disappeared. "I'm not overwhelmed," I said. "I'm confused." My grandfather leaned forward. "You told me she wasn't stable enough to manage assets," he said, staring directly at my parents. I felt like I'd been punched in the chest. "You said what?" I whispered. My mom sighed like I was a problem. "We were worried about you. You've always been sensitive." Sensitive. Suddenly, every struggle in my life replayed in my head. Every closed door. Every unexplained failure. And a terrifying thought crept in. What if none of it was an accident? Why am I hearing about a property in my name for the first time? I asked. No one answered. That pause? Louder than any argument. My grandfather finally spoke again. "Did you ever get my letters?" "Letters?" I asked. "I wrote to you every month." My mom's face went pale. "I never got a single one," I said. My grandfather turned toward my parents, his voice ice cold. "Then someone's been lying." The lawyer stepped forward and placed a briefcase on the table. And that's when I realized this wasn't about money. This was about control. And whatever was inside that briefcase, it was about to flip my entire life upside down. But the real shock didn't come from the documents. It came from whose name was on the forged signature. The lawyer didn't rush. That's what scared me the most. He placed a briefcase right in the middle of the table between the dry turkey and untouched cranberry sauce, like this was just another agenda item. Then, click, the locks popped open, sharp and loud in the silence. "I'll keep this simple," he said calmly, "because what's inside is not." He pulled out a stack of documents. Thick, organized, color-coded. This wasn't a family discussion anymore. This was an investigation. 3 years ago, he continued, Mr. Richard Collins purchased a lakeside property valued at just under $3 million. My stomach dropped. Purchased in the name of Lena Collins. My dad shot up from his chair. "That's impossible. She would remember signing something like that." The lawyer nodded. "You're right." He slid a paper across the table toward me. "Ms. Collins, does this signature belong to you?" My hand started shaking. As I leaned forward, it was my name, but it wasn't my handwriting. No, I said quietly. I never signed this. My mom let out a thin laugh. Lena forgets things all the time. I looked straight at her. You taught me how to sign my name. I said, you know that's not mine. The room went dead silent. The lawyer didn't even pause. 6 months ago, he said, flipping a page, ownership of that property was transferred to another family member. For how much? My grandfather asked. $1. My aunt's chair scraped against the floor. That transfer, the lawyer continued, was filed using documents printed less than a year ago. My grandfather's eyes narrowed. Explain. Most modern printers embed tracking codes. The lawyer said calmly. These documents were printed 6 months ago. My dad slammed his hand on the table. This is insane. You're accusing us of crimes over paperwork errors. Sit down, my grandfather said quietly. My dad sat. The lawyer turned another page. Funds intended for Ms. Collins' housing and credit support were also redirected. I felt dizzy. Redirected where? To a private account, he said, under a family member's name. My mom's hand flew to her mouth. That's not what it looks like. We were managing things temporarily. Temporarily? I said, my voice cracking. For 3 years, I thought about every night I lay awake counting bills. Every time I wondered why everyone else's life seemed to move forward while mine stayed stuck on pause. You told me struggling would make me stronger. I said, you told me to be patient. No one met my eyes. The lawyer closed the folder and looked at my grandfather. This is no longer a family issue, he said. It's a legal one. That's when it clicked. They didn't think I was weak. They needed me to stay weak. I took a shaky breath. So that's why, I said slowly, why my apartment applications kept failing. Why my credit score dropped even when I paid everything on time. My mom shook her head. You're jumping to conclusions. I turned to the lawyer. Were there any other irregularities? He hesitated just for a second. Yes. My heart slammed against my ribs. Like what? Emails, he said, sent to employers and financial institutions. From who? I asked. From this household, he replied, expressing concerns about your emotional stability and reliability. The room exploded. That's a lie, my dad shouted. We would never sabotage our own daughter. I laughed, not because it was funny, but because it finally made sense. You already did, I said. You just called it protection. My aunt stood up. You're being dramatic. I looked at her. Did you know I cried in my car after every rejection email? She didn't answer. My grandfather closed his eyes. You told me she needed supervision, he said quietly. My mom whispered. We were afraid. Afraid of what? I asked. She looked at me differently this time, calculating that if you became independent, you wouldn't need us anymore. And just like that, the last puzzle piece snapped into place. This was never about my safety. It was about leverage. The lawyer spoke again. There's one more thing. My stomach dropped. What now? The property wasn't empty, he said. My breath caught. Who's living there? He glanced at my aunt. A relative. They believed the transfer was legitimate. I felt sick. So while I was barely surviving, I said, someone else was living in my house. My grandfather stood up slowly. This ends tonight. My parents started talking over each other. Apologies, excuses, panic. But he raised a hand. No. I felt tears burn behind my eyes, not from weakness, but clarity. All those years, I thought I was failing. I wasn't. I was being controlled. And now the truth was finally out in the open. But just when I thought it couldn't get worse, the lawyer revealed the emails, and what they said about me changed everything. The lawyer didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. The room was already hanging by a thread. The emails weren't occasional, he said. They were consistent, coordinated. My heart started pounding so hard I could hear in my ears. What did they say? He adjusted his glasses. They described Miss Collins as emotionally unstable. High risk, not reliable long term. The words hit harder than any slap ever could. My dad slammed his fist on the table. That's complete nonsense. The lawyer didn't even look at him. They were sent under your home IP address. Silence swallowed the room. I felt something inside me crack. Not break, just shift. So every job that goes to me, I said slowly. Every offer that disappeared at the last minute, that wasn't bad luck. No one answered. That was you? I whispered. My mom's voice shook. We were protecting you. I laughed, sharp and hollow. You protected yourselves. My aunt crossed her arms. You've always been emotional, Lena. Everyone knows that. I turned to her. Do you know how many nights I sat in my car convincing myself not to quit life altogether? Her face froze. The lawyer flipped another page. There's more. Several financial institutions were warned that Miss Collins might be manipulated easily. Manipulated. The irony almost made me dizzy. I looked at my grandfather. They told you I couldn't be trusted with money. He nodded slowly. They did. And you believed them? His voice broke. I trusted your parents. That hurt, but at least it was honest. My dad stood up again. Enough. This is character assassination. No, I said calmly, surprising even myself. This is accountability. My mom started crying, real tears this time. We didn't want you to struggle. Then why did you make sure I did? I asked. She opened her mouth, closed it. The lawyer cleared his throat. There's evidence of forward consent on multiple documents. I sucked in a breath. How many? Enough. My aunt snapped. You're tearing this family apart. I shook my head. No, you built this on lies. I'm just finally seeing it. The room felt smaller, heavier, like truth had weight. My grandfather stood. I trusted you with her life, he said to my parents. And you used that trust to keep her dependent. My dad looked defeated now. We're still her parents. And parents don't sabotage their children, my grandfather replied. I felt tears slip down my face. But I didn't wipe them away. For once, I wasn't ashamed of them. The lawyer closed the folder. At this point, we have grounds for legal action. My mom dropped to her knees. Please, don't do this. I looked at her. You already did. For the first time in my life, I wasn't asking for approval. I was taking my life back. My grandfather turned to me. What do you want to do? I took a deep breath. I want the truth, I said. Out loud. No more silence. He nodded once. Then that's what happens. The lawyer snapped the briefcase shut. And I knew this wasn't the end. This was just the beginning. But what came next wasn't about money or property. It was about why they needed me powerless in the first place. The room didn't blow up after that. It collapsed, not with yelling or chaos, but with this heavy, suffocating quiet. The kind that settles in when there's nothing left to deny. Everyone looked exhausted, like they'd been holding up a lie for so long their arms finally gave out. The lawyer straightened the papers on the table. From here on out, he said, everything moves through legal channels. My dad swallowed hard. We can fix this quietly. Quietly? That word had buried the truth for years. No, the lawyer replied. That option's gone. My grandfather nodded. Do it. My mom reached for him. Richard, please, we're family. He looked at her, really looked at her, and his face didn't harden. It emptied. Family doesn't build cages and call them protection, he said. That sentence hit harder than anything else that night. I wrapped my arms around myself, trying to steady my breathing. You said I was fragile. I said slowly. So, explain this to me. What were you actually afraid of? My mom wiped her face. You were different. You questioned things. I laughed softly. So you made sure I stopped. My aunt scoffed. You're rewriting history. No, I said. I'm finally reading it without your edits. The lawyer cleared his throat. There's another pattern worth mentioning. My chest tightened. Of course there is. Control through access, he said. Financial, informational, emotional. I felt sick. You control what I knew. And what you didn't, he added. Every memory rearranged itself. Every time I asked too many questions. Every time I was told to calm down. Every time independence was framed like a threat. You didn't think I'd fail, I said quietly. You needed me dependent. My dad slammed his hand on the table. We're still your parents. And parents don't sabotage their kids' future, I replied. For the first time, no one argued back. My grandfather turned to the lawyer. What happens next? Immediate asset recovery, he said. A full audit. And criminal investigation, if necessary. My aunt shook her head. You're destroying everything. I met her gaze. No, you just don't like losing control. The lawyer packed his briefcase. Investigators will follow up within 48 hours. He turned to me. You're safe now. Safe. The word felt unfamiliar, but real. My grandfather stepped beside me and placed a hand on my shoulder. I failed you, he said quietly. I shook my head. You listened when it mattered. Around us, the Thanksgiving table sat untouched. Cold food, spilled wine, broken traditions. But for the first time, I didn't feel like I was losing something. I felt like I was getting my life back. And that's when I realized this wasn't the end of the damage. It was the start of the fallout. Because what happened after Thanksgiving didn't just change my family. It changed who I became. The house didn't feel loud after everyone left. It felt hollow, like the walls were still holding on to everything that had been said. I sat alone at the table long after the lawyer walked out, staring at the stack of papers like they might disappear if I blinked too long. For years, I thought I was bad at life. Turns out, I was just playing a rig game. The next weeks were brutal. Interviews, statements, bank records, emails I didn't even know existed. Every meeting felt like ripping open a wound I'd spent years pretending wasn't there. Some days I left feeling powerful. Other days, I sat in my car afterward gripping the steering wheel, asking myself how people who said they loved me could be that calculated. The property was returned to my name within months. Every signature explained. Every transfer reversed. No one spoke for me anymore, and that alone changed everything. The money that had been taken, restored. With interest. When I paid off my student loans, I didn't celebrate. I just stared at the screen, realizing how fear had shaped every decision I ever made. Fear of failing. Fear of needing help. Fear that maybe they were right about me. Unlearning that took time. I work with therapists, financial advisors. Not because I was unstable, but because healing deserves structure too. And then something weird happened. I started sharing my story, quietly at first. Anonymous posts, short threads, no names. People started responding. Messages from strangers who'd been told they were too emotional, too irresponsible, not ready. People who'd been controlled the same way I had, just dressed up as concern. So I made it official. Now I help people understand contracts, money, boundaries, red flags. I teach them how to tell the difference between care and control. The calendar filled up faster than I ever expected. More importantly, it filled something inside me that used to feel empty. My grandfather visits often. We talk about the lake, the weather, sometimes about the past, sometimes not. Trust doesn't come back all at once. One evening, watching the sun drop behind the water, he said something that finally let me forgive myself. You weren't weak, he said. You were isolated. That hit hard. This house doesn't feel like evidence anymore. It feels quiet, safe, mine. Thanksgiving doesn't feel the same now. It used to be a performance. Smiles over silence. Tradition over truth. I don't do that anymore. Silence isn't respect. It's a cage. And that night taught me something I wish I'd learned sooner. Love doesn't require you to shrink. But the real ending of the story isn't about what I lost. It's about what I finally claimed. A year has passed since that Thanksgiving. Some days it feels like a lifetime ago. Other days, it feels close enough that I can still hear the scrape of chairs on the floor and the sound of that briefcase clicking open. I'm standing on the deck of the lake house now. The same house that was supposed to protect me, then got turned into leverage. The water stretches out in front of me, calm and unbothered. like it never witnessed the lies built around it. The legal process was long, painfully long. There were interviews where I had to repeat things I'd spent years trying to forget, bank statements that showed just how carefully my life had been managed behind my back, emails that proved my instincts hadn't been paranoia. They'd been warnings. Some days I walked out of meetings feeling 10 feet tall. Other days, I sat in my car afterward wondering how people who raised me could be that methodical in keeping me small. But I kept going, because for the first time in my life, no one was telling me to stop asking questions. The house is officially mine now. No asterisks. No temporary arrangements. Every decision requires my approval. No one speaks on my behalf anymore. That alone rewired something in me. The settlement closed quietly. Funds restored. Damage accounted for. Boundaries drawn in permanent ink. I didn't rush into a new life. I rebuilt it slowly on purpose. I chose peace over proving something. Stability over approval. And here's the wild part. I don't feel angry anymore. I feel clear. I choose who has access to me now. Financially, emotionally, legally. I don't confuse loyalty with silence. I don't mistake control for love. If there's one thing this whole mess taught me, it's this. You're allowed to know the truth about your own life. You're allowed to ask questions. And when the truth finally comes out, healing can actually start. Thanksgiving still exists. But it doesn't owe me anymore. I'm not surviving now. I'm building. And that might be the real inheritance they never expected me to claim.